Hello and welcome to the Bandwagon Podcast, the show where we take a deep dive into the music industry. I'm your host, Charlie Cooper, and my guest this week is the Sussex Stevie Ray Vaughan, Stuart Bligh. Stuart is a professional blues guitarist and singer and has had a phenomenal career over the past few decades. Beyond the stage, he's built an excellent reputation as a guitar tutor, who in fact taught me how to play. Today we get into the depths of Stuart's life in the music industry. Stuart, thanks for joining me. How are you, mate?
I'm very, very well. It's hot, another hot day here in sunny Cranfield.
God, it's the same here as well. I think it got to 31 degrees earlier on. I went to take the dog out and he looked at me like I was an absolute psychopath. I was like, okay, fine, we'll go back inside.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. Thanks for coming, and thanks for coming back, because the first time we tried to do this was a bloody disaster from a technical point of view. I think this is probably our third attempt now.
Totally.
So yeah, as I said to you, I've upgraded the software, I've upgraded the hardware, so fingers crossed, touch wood, we won't have any issues. So Stuart, if you just want to start by telling the listeners a bit about yourself and your background.
Surely. I've been a professional musician for many a year. I'm based near Uckfield in East Sussex, originally from London, and moved down to Sussex in 1998, where I quickly got into the teaching side of things and established myself as a local guitar and music tutor, while maintaining a profile as a performer. So mirroring yourself a little bit, you know, the idea of having a passion and a muse to follow as a creative guitar player and vocalist, specializing in blues-based material, to being a teacher at schools, Sussex schools, and private tuition during the day. And one thing kind of supplementing the other as a kind of career. And I've been doing this for many years professionally. You know, it's 26 years, 27 years as a professional. And before that, you know, always a gigging musician since my teens, and supplementing that with part-time work and, you know, really trying to focus on my playing and my singing, and not wanting a career out of music. I needed something to pay for guitar strings, maybe, but always focused on the music since I was a teenager. And here we are.
Fantastic, lovely. And from sort of a bit more about your background there in London, whereabouts in London are you from? And are you from sort of like an artistic family? Did your parents play? What was the background of that?
Well, I was based in southwest London, around Earls Court, Chelsea, Kensington Way. I didn't realise how fortunate I was to be living and being raised in that part of London. I had many a famous neighbour. I mean, Freddie Mercury was 100 yards away. You know,
Really?
Yes, actors, actresses, all within a stone's throw of the flat that we lived in. And yeah, it was, you know, fluke really. But my mum and dad were both art school students. That's where they met, at St Martin's School of Art. And, you know, that was my first thing, you know, drawing and painting, trying to copy mum and dad. My mum was more in fashion, but my dad was more into art, fine art. And he went into a career that incorporated that, you know, design and printing and shop fitting and anything creative that kind of connected with being an artist, if you like. And I see the many similarities now, trying to earn a living out of your skill, rather than just focusing on one strand of it, you know. So They weren't musical as such. They loved music, but they weren't musical. I didn't have any musical guidance, which is a bit of a shame. I'm sure I could have got from A to B a bit quicker if I had, but my sister took some piano and guitar lessons, and I was always admiring her for that. And but yeah, she was too young to teach me anything. But I loved music, and it was probably apparent from a young age. And I was, while I wasn't kind of encouraged to play music as such, it was certainly something I wasn't discouraged from, if that makes sense.
Oh, of course, yeah.
They kind of let me get on with it, and I'm sure the idea of being under an artistic umbrella wasn't lost on mum and dad. But yes, as is the struggle with being an artist of any kind, whether it's an actor, a painter, an artist, a musician, whatever. It's trying to find a career path that you can hang your hat on, rather than it being a bit of fun on the side. But they mum and dad didn't discourage me, let me get on with it, and dad would drive me to gigs and drive me to rehearsals, and it was kind of I'm sure that they were kind of pleased I was involved in something like that. And I don't think I was ever expected to go into like an academic route. And some of your listeners might be on the cusp of making decisions that affect the rest of their life, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old. You're coming to a crossroads in your life, and to be following a career that you are invested in, that you're passionate about, ideally is where we all want to be, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, and that's the thing. I think I can remember my dad saying to me, if recently when I sort of made the plunge into going full time, if you find a job you love, never work a day in your life. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think we'll get onto this later. Both of us have had some, there's been some bad experiences with gigs and venues and things like that. But overall, I think we've got a great job. What we do, I think it's as far as I'm concerned, it's the best job in the world. But I think everything that comes with its struggles, which I'm sure we'll speak about a little bit later on. But were you pretty much self-taught then, Stuart?
I was. I regret that, though. I was probably too insecure and too shy as a 15-year-old to seek out lessons, or maybe even too skint to pay for them. There's all these other things that you consider. But if I had my time again, I would definitely take tuition, even if it was for a shorter period of time. I did take one lesson. I remember I found someone in a music paper of some kind, and it's just a struggle to find anyone local. I remember being about 16, 17, having to get about 3 buses to get there, and I remember it all being a bit of a pain. And I remember being like 10 minutes late for the lesson, and that 10 minutes came out of my hour, and all that stuff, that I wouldn't do to anyone. That was done to me.
Of course, yeah.
But yes, the idea of being self-taught isn't a bad thing. I'm sure most of our heroes were self-taught.
Oh, yeah.
But the idea of where I did have a win, if you like, was that I was playing music immediately with other people. So this was, my kind of substitute for lessons. Obviously I give lessons a lot. I've got 3 schools, got huge roster of private students, and most of my students aren't playing with anyone else. They're not playing in a band yet. They're too shy to. They don't think they're good enough to, or they want to take lessons for 2 years before they contact anyone else, that kind of vibe. But I was in a band the day I got my guitar. I was jamming with friends who were encouraging me to jump on board, and so that was kind of substitute for that, not having lessons, making music with other people immediately. I mean, straight away. It was great fun. It was such a laugh, and making mistakes along the way was all part of the learning curve. And as time went by, some people were obviously more serious about things than others, and those people would fall by the wayside, and you'd be left with a harder core of young musicians who were taking it a bit more seriously. And I was one of those guys who stuck with it. And you're in your first band, you're rehearsing, and you're trying to get gigs, and it was all part of it. I wish I'd taken lessons, as I say, but a lot of it was still, great for what it was. It was great fun and a learning curve of a different kind.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's but very very interesting when I speak to people all the time. I mean, one about sort of getting into learning and self-teaching, that kind of thing, and what people always say to me, what's better, which one's better? I said, well, I don't really know the answer to that, to be honest, because I mean, I know Jimi Hendrix certainly never had a guitar lesson in his life, but then you've got I can't I know for me full well, had I not had lessons, I wouldn't be doing it today. I wouldn't have stuck with it. I wouldn't have had the attention span. I needed that guidance. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Everyone's different. I mean, obviously, we are talking with myself. We're talking about the early mid-80s here. We're obviously way pre-internet, and all that stuff, which people have the resource now to learn a lot online if you're committed. Without spending a penny. All I had was magazines, really, and watching my friends play and watching their fingers try and copy friends. I think just going off a bit of a tangent, but I think that's why players were more unique back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Though you had players who were so different, who were icons, whereas I'm hearing a lot of players who sound quite similar nowadays. You had to be self-sufficient back then, and I think it kind of made you a bit more original somehow. But that's a conversation for another day. But as I say, the idea of being self-taught wasn't really even much of a choice. It wasn't really. I mean, guitar lessons were for nerds. They were for
sort of the more classical side of things.
Guys with horn with glasses, and it's all very, very different back then. If you're into rock music, like I was, like we all were, even music classes at school weren't taken seriously because it was kind of stuffy, and it was kind of, as you say, it had a classical bent to it all, and it didn't register with us as being vaguely important. Of course it was, but nowadays, with teaching it at school, excuse me, it's all taught via modern music a lot of the time, and kids can relate to the music that they're hearing, and kids can be taught via the modern tunes. It doesn't have to be stuffy, but back in the day, if you were interested in music and you took music lessons, you probably got beaten up in the playground. It was was, lemon, you know.
You just reminded me of something. There's a musical comedian. His name escapes me. Who he does this whole thing about every song being Pachelbel's canon in D, all that same chord progression, and he's from the cello part. And he said about it's when you tell people as an adult you're a cello player, they're really impressed. But when it's being a kid who plays cello is really not cool. Because your instrument's bigger than you are. So, like you can't. There's no way you're running away. Um, so no, I get. I think to be honest, I've gotten into teaching in schools more recently. Um, I think music classes in schools have changed since I was at school. Um, what you said there about them being kind of stuffy, like just school music lessons in general. To be honest, that was really what I thought of them, which is why I was so much more keen to come out and have lessons with you rather than doing my sort of GCSE or year 7, 8, 9 music, because it got to a point once I had a bit of an idea of what I was doing, I'd tell you what songs I'd want to learn. And if I'd picked three in a row that were a bit samey, you'd suggest something else. But by and large, you were very up for me learning what I wanted to learn. And I think that's the key there when you're doing either private or in school music lessons that aren't, in part of the general curriculum, the extracurricular stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to keep your youngsters motivated, and if I didn't do that, I'd be out of business pretty quick, So, but there's different strands to it all, and as you were suggesting earlier on, everyone's got their own way of doing things, but I've also got to be aware of some students need to be got through exams. They need or want a music qualification.
Yeah.
That will put them on a different path that isn't quite as rock and roll as the one you and I have followed, which is a bit more free-spirited and see what happens kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, definitely. And that's the thing. I think that I've started to learn pretty fast, pretty recently. It is the difference, in kids, and it's not a one size fits all approach, and that's where I kind of feel that. And this isn't a proper, school curriculum music teacher at all. But what I think is they're in a situation there where they've got 20 to 30 kids, they've all got to teach the same thing, and they don't have the freedom we have to work in either one-to-one or a small group basis and tailor it more. Which is why I've been asked before to do like classroom teaching, and I've to be honest, I don't want to do that. I'd rather put the work in with someone who's really gone out of their way to seek out the individual tuition or group, small group tuition, and give them more time, help them more of their development rather than spreading myself too thin across a larger group.
Yeah, I mean, there's what we do is completely flexible. The idea of the individual's goals are what we have to adhere to as well. So a music qualification. Do they want to? They might be looking to join an orchestra, or they might want to be studio musicians. They might want to work in a theatre pit. They might want to be a session guy. They might want to be a gun for hire. You've got to have all facets of your musicianship up to snuff. Where if you're a rock and roller, you can be more focused on one thing, and see what happens. But the idea of being working out a career in music is to really have lots of bases covered. But as I say, lots of youngsters haven't quite got that vision yet with the arts generally. I think I want to be an actor. I want to be a dancer. I want to be a guitarist. It's all a bit vague.
Yeah, yeah. I've quite a lot of time where some of the kids teach guitar say they want to do something like ukulele next, want to learn that as well. And my advice to them, if it's from if they wanted to do it as a job, is learn how to play a bass properly, or even drums, because they're two instruments you will, if you want to play in bands, you will always have work. You will not have as much competition as you will with a guitar. There's quite a lot of guitarists out there, but if you can play a bass or drums on that as well, that I always thought that was personally, that's a really good career move to have that as a backup. But not that I particularly done that myself, so it's slightly hypocritical. But I just know, how many bass players do we know who are in 5 or 6 bands?
Oh well, there's that. I mean, that's stretching the point a little bit. I mean, that's that there's lots of work to do in that regard. But the different personalities. Different ways of thinking it. It's like some people are more alpha. They're going to be the leader of a band. They're going to
Sure.
be the guy who picks who he wants to play with. There's that guy or girl. It's like if this is my band, we're going to play my songs or the songs I choose and the style I choose. And there's the type of personality which is is going to be kind of more of a follower. There's going to be the guy who doesn't book the gigs, who waits for the phone to ring. Do you want to be the boss? So the idea of being a multi-instrumentalist, sure. But if you're a band leader, you're probably not concerned about that.
No, of course, and that's a thing where like you say, you just get the more sort of, I guess, dominant personalities and that kind of thing, where you kind of start up in bands sometimes where there's been probably where every member of the band's like that, and it ends up being a bit of a tinderbox, at certain points. But yeah, it's good to have that mix of different people playing together.
Well, I mean,
And
fast forwarding, some years, the guy who gets the gig is the boss, if you like. So, the idea of where you and I are at is like, the unseen part of what we do is the booking, is the liaising with clubs, bars, agents, whoever it is, and that's the leadership quality that it's part of being a musician. We go where the work goes, and the idea of choosing who you work with and where you work, if it's up to you or not. It's lots of different paths it could all go into.
yeah, absolutely. There's a real something to be said about being the person that gets the gigs. Is if you do start new projects, or you decide to do solo work, or you do solo work and start to sign a band, you got all those contacts with landlords, managers, booking agents, that you can sort of stay with you, no matter what project you're in, without having to go and find another band to join that's already established. It's can be quite a valuable thing to have in your locker.
Well, my point is that the coming back to what we're talking about, learning and education and getting good and practicing, it all comes down to this at the end of the day. Where is the work and who gets it? So there's that transition. If people are going to music, further music education at music colleges, things like BIM in Brighton, and making contacts in music, further music education is where lots of people would start to climb that networking ladder, which you and I perhaps missed out a little bit on, because we just skipped that chapter and went straight onto the stage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Similarly to you, I think I probably did my first like live performance maybe, I don't know, 9 months in. Maybe, I mean, you were playing in bands immediately, but I was certainly very quick in performing in front of people. Maybe 9 months, something like that. When I think I first performed in front of people, and I've always felt that the best way that's the best way to learn when it comes to music. If you want to play in front of people, that is, of course. If you want to be a studio musician or just a hobbyist, then it's a bit different. If you're thinking, oh, I want to go out there and play in front of people, the best way to do it is get out and do it, whether it's open mics, school gigs, whatever that is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's the best lesson you can have.
there is that, but I bet you wouldn't like to listen to those gigs again. You know?
Oh
So
God, no.
to mine. But the idea of what we do at school, you've got to consider that the formal side of what we do has got to give the student the possibility to get a qualification and to go into further education if they wish. I wish I'd done that, to be fair.
Yeah.
But there is more opportunity now for that to be the case in a rock and roll kind of thing, and to network while you're doing it, to gig while you're doing it, to improve in every aspect of what's to come. Even the business side of thing is taught at these colleges, music colleges. The business side of it is taught. The
Oh yeah,
contracts,
yeah.
the royalties, Spotify, whatever. It's all incorporated now into further music education. And while we can, sound romantic about, grabbing a guitar in a shop and being on stage next week, it's. I would encourage people who are thinking about it, have the opportunity to to do all that at the same time as further educating yourself, learning the ins and outs of playing with other people, and all the good stuff. I'd certainly encourage people to consider that strongly, and obviously where we win is that we have the fortitude and the guts to do it. And maybe so with myself, I was fortunate enough to be encouraged and supported with family members, girlfriends, wives, whatever. It was perhaps very different if I was not so lucky. What might have happened had I been with the wrong crowd. So very, 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 very lucky, and to have been able to over many years establish myself as a blues guitarist of repute, if you like, in the Sussex area, and to be the perhaps the tutor of choice of my local town, villages. That's where it's kind of ended up for me. So it's kind of like a veteran status now, if you like, of what I do, and the respect that goes with just being an older head now, and helping and mentoring others is what comes with the job as you get a bit older. Sort of seeing students who are doing it for themselves, like you are, and thankfully many others who are taking a similar path, and it's great to see.
It is great when you see students going and doing well. I've got an old student of mine called Ryan, who actually ended up playing bass in a band of mine, who's now in his own band who have just played the Why Not Festival, and they've done Isle of Wight and that kind of thing. And for me at least, it definitely reminds me of why I keep doing it. Because for every like you said before, there are many people who start this and then fall by the wayside. They don't want to. They get frustrated with how difficult it is to start with for some people and that kind of thing. But when you see the ones like you say who you've had some involvement with their development, really make hit some milestones. It's a great feeling.
Oh, so all we can hope for really is to leave some sort of a legacy behind, right? So
Yeah,
our legacy is creating and encouraging musicians. So it starts off ripples in the water. It's we to affect people's lives positively with music, either as a performer or a tutor, an educator. That's really the win, isn't it? That's what we leave behind. So which sounds a bit
absolutely.
it's but the idea of a musical legacy, obviously, not like Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton, but in a way that is a more organic thing on our level.
Yeah, definitely, and it's funny when you think back at those moments. Like I can remember so clearly the assembly that you came into in my school and explain what you were doing. And I'd not long bought a guitar, maybe 6 months before, something like that. And again, a friend of mine, I got one because basically I don't know if I told you this before. I originally wanted a drum kit, but my dad worked nights. So he said absolutely not, basically. uh, but a friend of mine got a guitar, and I was like, okay, that's good. I like the look of this as well. And then you come in, you spoke in that assembly, which is something I now do very regularly in different schools, through West Sussex Music, um, and now that person standing up there doing that, and that the effect that had on me, you coming in and doing that talk in that assembly was the first step in what set me up with my career and what my life's like now. Seeing the effect that you're having on people as a tutor is huge, isn't it? Really, when you think about it.
It was in the water, but the uh, that's something that goes with the job. The sales pitch at schools, and I've got to do one in a few weeks. You'll have one in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Ache of students at school, and we're on that big giant hamster wheel. Uh, of teaching, so obviously the flip side to that is for us, it's our livelihood and it's a business, and those kind of assemblies I take much more seriously now than I did, I must admit, because it's a sales pitch. It's a sales pitch, 11-year-olds, and if you can light their fire and get them on board. And that's what helps me rock and roll at night, you see. So teaching during the day and rocking and rolling with the guys at night is how it all kind of works. One thing supplementing the other, as a performer and a teacher, as we were saying at the beginning.
Absolutely, yeah. And sort of to come full circle again, something I wanted to ask you to the point where I've actually made note of it. Your first guitar, what was that? And was it I've seen, for example, was it I've seen this person play a Les Paul, for example, so that's what you wanted. What was your thought process behind what you chose?
Well, it's a funny story because it wasn't. It was a very gradual thing. There was a guitar in the house, back in the 1970s. Probably every household had either a piano or a guitar somewhere in the house. I mean, might sound a bit funny, but you just would. There'd be God knows where it came from. Who knows? But
Not in Crawley, Stuart. There won't.
It's just a thing, probably from yesteryear, but the 60s, the 70s, to have an acoustic guitar standing in the corner of the living room was very, very normal. It wasn't unusual to go to someone's house and there'd be a guitar. It might be a 4 broken strings, but so we had a guitar in the house. My sister took some lessons at school, but I just as I got into buying records and getting into music, I'd pick this guitar up. It was just an old nylon strung beater, probably 20, 30 quid nylon strung classical guitar. It was just in the house, and I would pick things out on that. And when I wanted to do it properly, I didn't really have the luxury of choosing something. It was really a friend who had a guitar for sale that he was upgrading from, if you like. And if he was buying a guitar for £100, he was going to sell me this one for £40 or £50, and it was a Hohner guitar. I think they're still a brand that
They are, yeah.
And it was it was very heavy rock. It was a kind of spiky, based on a kind of Gibson Explorer type of thing. It was very rock and roll, very flashy looking, but cheap as chips. But it didn't cross my mind, to buy a really like a type of guitar. It was just an electric guitar, and it wasn't really until a little bit after that that I started to gravitate towards certain players, my heroes, Jimi Hendrix, Ritchie Blackmore, Eddie Van Halen, whoever it might have been. And the Fender Stratocaster became a guitar that started to register with me, that lots of my heroes would use, Eric Clapton. And I think my next guitar was a Strat copy. So I think it was an Aria Pro. I think they're still going as well.
My first acoustic guitar was an Aria.
So this was about 1980, something like that. It would have been about 16. And that's when that was a pretty good guitar that I took into band rehearsals, and every guitar that I've played properly or gigged with has been a Strat-like guitar, a Fender Stratocaster, whether it was a flashy version of one or a real Fender Stratocaster. So, that kind of guitar has been my guitar of choice from a pretty early age. And as I say, your heroes guide you a little bit. But I found the Fender Stratocaster to be the most versatile of guitars for me. I enjoy playing other types of guitar now for many years, of course, but my go-to guitar is the Fender Stratocaster. And looking back, even the cheap copies were based on them, So as you went up through the grades, as your guitars got better, the transition was easy. It wasn't like you were going from like a Les Paul to a Gibson type guitar to a Fender to something else. It was had a kind of path. So yes, that's my guitar of choice, and it's something which is associated with me, and what I play is really based around how a Fender reacts, So yeah, but I love all guitars, really, of course.
Sure. I mean, you said about you've enjoyed playing other guitars as well. So, what I know you like Les Pauls. Have you ever toyed with any of the sort of the hollow bodies like 335s, or have you even gone the other way and had a go of anything with active pickups?
No, I'm pretty organic. I love my old school blues,
Hmm.
and plays kind of simplistic. I don't want uh, too many buttons or bells and whistles, but I play lots of acoustic guitar. So I'm a solo performer as well, and I play nylon strung acoustic guitar, which was the first type of guitar I ever played. So I prefer the nylon strung acoustic guitars to the steel strung ones. As a solo performer, I like to play kind of finger style uh, and kind of croon in the corner,
Hmm. Yeah.
balancing on a nylon strung acoustic guitar. But yeah, I mean, I love all guitars. It would be having the time to play them all now, But I
Yeah,
know
of
you like
course.
hollow body. That's something that's not in my small collection of guitars. I don't have any hollow body electric guitars.
Yeah, I've got a couple, both of which sort of out of commission at the moment. I've got an Epiphone Casino which needs some work done, and I've got a Yamaha AEX which I recently actually gave to my wife because it's got a nice small body, thin neck. It suits her quite nicely, and she wanted to learn a bit. And being a pianist, she's already got musical knowledge, so she's picking it up pretty quick. But I've kind of I've been Telecasters, and really weirdly, when you consider sort of music I play, a PRS copy I love, which everyone goes, really? When I tell them that. But my main guitar now, like you say, because I do so much solo stuff, it's definitely acoustic. I just there's something very zen about an acoustic guitar, feels very
Oh,
natural.
so I mean, the idea of a guitar just feeling right is feeling comfortable. It doesn't matter what's on the headstock,
Of course.
that's um but yeah, I mean, an Epiphone Casino, I mean, that's most closely associated with John Lennon, right?
Yeah, yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, but you talk about your heroes, the reason I wanted one was Paul Weller. See, he plays a lot. I think he's got dozens of them, to be completely honest. But what no one did tell me about the F1 Casino, and I didn't think about this in the shop, was you put overdrive on it, it don't like it because it's completely hollow. It's not got the block in the middle like a 335. So you're essentially just banging overdrive on an acoustic guitar. And I didn't think too much about that at the time, which is why I went out and got a solid body as well shortly after.
Well, it's a thing, it's to learn about the interaction of a hollow body guitar with an amp and trying to make that sound musical. That's all part of the game.
Mm,
There's people who prefer that kind of on the edge of chaos kind of sound. It's part of their thing.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, after your background there, you mentioned some of the people you were into some of the guitarists there, like Clapton, Hendrix, Van Halen, but I understand you were what really led you into that was the sort of 80s metal bands like AC/DC, for example. So, can you tell us a bit about that, and then the sort of natural progression into blues from there?
It's I see it all now. I'm older and wiser, but I really got my first uh, you know, thing I hooked into was classic heavy rock music. That's what I loved. In the early '80s, and to this day, I still have a sweet spot for classic rock music. We probably called it heavy metal back then. But bands like AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and Motorhead and uh, those types of band, Free, uh, and then
Sabbath?
Black Sabbath, of
Yeah.
course. It was all that type of thing that I realise now is really kind of blues on steroids. It's to kind of listen to AC/DC now I hear a blues band on 11. It's
Yeah.
some with Black Sabbath, some with Motorhead. It's all rock and roll. It's pure rock and roll and blues that was supercharged and on the next kind of level with showmanship and performance and the whole image of it all. Um, and as you kind of mature, or you start to listen to your heroes, and they would be always talking about Eric Clapton or Jimi Hendrix or Albert King or BB King or blues gods from yesteryear, and they would be their heroes. And when you start to take an interest in your heroes, you get to the source more and more. So the source of the music that I was enjoying as a teenager and in my early to mid 20s, that classic rock sound, you could trace it back to classic blues, to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf, to Chuck Berry, to right back to the real early stuff. How far you wanted to go down the family tree, if you like. So that's kind of how it went for me, and to think of music as something which grows, into and morphs into something else. But certainly, the blues is where it ended up for me. That went via AC/DC and Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton and things like that. But I can hear blues in, lots of heavy metal and heavy rock. It's blues based material. Black Sabbath were a blues band before they created what they did, and you can hear the elements of blues form in so much classic rock music. And Deep Purple, White Snake, ZZ Top. It's really blues music cranked up to 11, as I say. It's and you just get to the source eventually. You just do. So and that affects your playing. It affects your way of thinking about creating, and to see what bands did with their blues influence was very inspiring.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I can really relate to what a lot of what you're saying there. Like when I first started getting to bands like the Jam and the Stranglers and the Clash. And again, you find the source, and I suppose with the Jam, the source goes back to like the Beatles and the Faces, and then you go further back and you're at jazz and rock and roll and stuff like that. So it's a very I think a very classic tried and tested method. If you find what you like and work backwards, you end up with a very good understanding of the music that you like.
I think that's I think that's essential. To like you talk with the Jam, it's the Who, isn't it? It's the Beatles, it's the
Yeah,
Kids,
absolutely.
the the Faces, the Small Faces. It's and then from that out pops Britpop, and so it
Yeah.
grows. So
And now
yeah.
here we are with the pop music of today, eh? Jeez.
It's, yeah, it's very easy to be old and cynical about things, but as we slip into artificial intelligence world, that's going to affect music very, very seriously in years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do, I had somebody say to me yesterday, actually, about how, there's no good music anymore. I was like, well, that's not true. The music that is pushed towards the commercial mainstream now just isn't what you're into. There's loads of great bands and artists out there. You just got to find them.
Well, this is it. I mean, the idea of the music companies, that they tell you what to like, whereas back in the day, you bought what you liked. It's like no one no one asked for Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix just arrived.
Mm.
So it wasn't manufactured uh, music, as things are today. Um, but the way people listen to music, the way that youngsters uh, how music is kind of devalued now
Yeah,
because it can be bought for free, or bought for free, got for free.
yeah.
Um, and when we were kids, if we had a few quid pocket money, you wanted to spend that on something righteous. You weren't going to leave anything to chance. The chances were you were going to buy a classic album with that few quid that was your pocket money. You weren't going to waste it, and
Yeah.
you treasured and you valued the music that you bought as a boy, as a youth, as a teenager. You would listen to that album that you saved for, and you had respect for it. Whereas youngsters today don't respect music as much as we did. I'm
No,
generalizing,
of course,
but,
of course.
but if you're given something for free all the time, you don't value it.
No, you're absolutely right. I think what I was sort of, I don't know, 14, 15 when MP3 players become, sort of first come onto not being a normal thing to have. And with iTunes, at least then you were still buying it. And the one thing I did like about iTunes, remember, you could buy individual tracks. So if you bought a couple of the singles off of an album, it would then let you buy the rest of it at a bit of discount because you'd already bought the singles. So that was quite nice. You weren't taking as much of that risk that you spoke about there. But then when torrenting, just I never did this. The whole LimeWire peer to peer, essentially illegal downloading. I never did that. And it used to amaze me how many people at BIM did it. Because I
Well,
was
yeah,
thinking, hang on a second, we're all here trying to make a living out of this. What are you doing?
the moment things, if you're buying something that you can't touch, that's
Hmm.
where the schism is. That's where the crossroads is. People, if you're buying something you can hold and it's tactile, it's something you can look at and hold. You feel like you've bought something properly. If you're buying tracks on iTunes or whatever it was, on your MP3, whatever, you're not touching it, are you? You're not seeing it. It's
No.
not tangible, and that's where it all started. Even if you were buying something with the best intentions, that's what happened, and then you know however it happened, you started to be able to bootleg this stuff,
Yeah.
and it became a worthless commodity, um, which affects the music business in a totally different way. For you and I who play the clubs and bar circuit, it's um, it affects it in a different way, in that uh, I don't see too many youngsters, um, going to going to see gigs. I mean, you get the gigs I play. It's like lots of. I think nearly everyone is over 40.
Absolutely, and unless there's a family there who brought their kids with them, yeah, that's the only exception, really.
the way that technology has affected the music business in every single way. It's like someone who's 19 here doesn't really understand what I'm doing.
No,
just don't.
no. I had a student ask me what a CD was a couple of years ago.
Here we go.
Yeah, and it blew my mind. He's about 7. And he
Right.
asked, I said, I don't know why, but it's a conversation or something about a CD. I was probably talking about a teaching book that come with a CD. And he asked me what a CD was. And I was just like, oh my Lord.
But
You know,
I'm saying young people don't go to concerts, but they, the Taylor Swift concert, it's more about the spectacle. It's the show.
yeah.
It's the occasion. It's not the music as such.
Yeah, you can
Uh,
say the same about Coldplay because they put on a very big visual show, didn't they?
so I mean, those guys are what, late 40s, 50 now.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, the late 40s, early 50s, yeah.
Audiences growing up with them.
Yeah.
So they'll have a generational thing where dad takes along his son or whatever to the gig. There's that generation when a band gets so big, but you're talking about 0.0001 of bands, aren't you, percentage wise?
Of course you are, yeah. Like, I can think of maybe, I
Replacing
think,
the when they're gone. Right?
yeah, yeah. And you're right. I think about my students. I had several of my students went to Taylor Swift's Wembley show. I think 2 of them went to see Foo Fighters at London Stadium.
Oh yeah.
That says it all, doesn't it? Um, but yeah, and that's just something I think that we're having to adapt to, and that's very much sink or swim. If you we have to change the way we do things, and I think I'm finding venues who are trying to maybe undercut and pay a bit less to get bands in aren't having very many bands play, because of the way things have changed, and COVID was a big thing with that. I think the sort of point I'm making there is that's just another change in the industry, and it's always changed. It's always been very dynamic.
You're at the mercy of venues closing down, venues changing their outlook on things. Things that used to be the foundational live music scene. Was your classic music pub. Which is the culture I grew up in. A big pub with a stage and a band that would be helping the night along. It was that's how it used to be. 4, 5, 6 nights a week. There'd be a gig somewhere in a great boozer, wherever it might be. And that's dwindled to weekend work, and there are just less venues to play, and it's facts of life. It's
Yeah,
the economics of it all and logistics of it all. I understand. My band is a 3-piece band, the Big Blue, which makes the pennies go a bit further. But if you're in a 4-piece, 5-piece, 6-piece band, financially anyway, there's it's very, very difficult to justify doing it. So
yeah, it absolutely is, and that's a huge reason why I do mainly solo work. I am currently forming a band with some great lads who I've known for a little while, through the local music scene. But that I'll be honest, that won't ever be the bulk of my work. That's all going to be my solo stuff because at the end of the day, if I had to split every gig 4 ways, I wouldn't be able to afford to do this for a living. I really wouldn't.
that's it. So I mean, when you such a shame. You're talking the difference of what 20, 30, 40 quid makes. That's
Oh yeah,
how close to the wire this all is. which isn't a great advert for being a professional musician. But as I say, the idea of being and adapting, as you and I have, 20 years ago, I've never dreamed of being an established solo performer. I mean, just not something I was invested in at all. I was a band player. I wanted to play in a band, create with other musicians, improvise, bounce off each other. That was all my vibe, And the idea of being a solo musician was the equivalent to almost retiring. It was.
I felt exactly the same way for so long, Stuart. I really did.
I got into it gradually, and for me, I'm able to get a pretty good balance between band and solo work. So I'm gigging, at least 160 nights a year. That's my thing. I'm able to play anywhere with a plug socket if you're solo.
Yeah.
And be flexible with where you play, if you're background music or whatever, and you rock and roll with the band when the opportunity arises. So that's how it works for me. I'm out a lot during the month, and the gigs are there. I mean, I play everything from candlelit restaurants to care homes to garden parties to weddings, all types of gig. And with the band, I'm on the club and festival and bar circuit. Absolutely chalk and cheese. I could be crooning a Bee Gees tune, in a care home on a Tuesday afternoon, and playing Purple Haze on Friday night.
Yeah. That's fine. I've got a friend who I'm hoping to get on the show, actually, a guy called Paul Stanworth, who solo artist, and he used to be a carer, and he gets a lot of work in care homes off of the back of that. And he has to be very adaptively set. And in episode 1 of this show, a soul singer who I'm pals with, Michael Levy Jr. He always he lives in Tenerife and performs out there pretty much every night. And he said it's very difficult to go in with a pre-organized set for that kind of thing. It's so dynamic. Have you ever had to play somewhere where you've kind of had a set list, but then it's kind of the vibe's been different and the set's gone out the window and you've kind of gone a bit rogue off of what you had planned? Or do you approach every gig like that, kind of, we'll see how it is on the night, depends what we'll play?
Well, that goes with experience, Charlie. Sometimes you just got to read the room. You've got to, if any of your listeners are new to performing and having set lists, of course, with the best intentions, of course, but sometimes you've got to read the room. You've got to, everyone's on the dance floor and the next song's a ballad. You kick that one off the set list sharpish. You're on the dance floor. It's just like, and everyone's got to be switched on to that. But that works both ways as well. It's like, how big is your repertoire? How many songs are in your trick bag? Can you handle requests? People shouting out the jam, do a jam song. Have you got it in your locker? I haven't, but
I do.
Do you know Wonderwall?
Oh, that one. I'm going to get a T-shirt made that says, "No, I will not play Wonderwall."
But it's that goes with experience. If you've got a pool of songs, if you've got 200, 300 songs, there's every chance you can handle requests and shout outs. You with the band, I'm a bit more niche. We do have a style and a path that we adhere to. We're not the Big Blue isn't like a jukebox band. We have a style that people expect to hear. We're a blues R&B blues rock band, that we're not going to play Robbie Williams. No one would ask, because we're obviously not that type of band, but we still have dance floor fillers, even if it's just a certain groove, it's
Yeah.
um, so we'd have a pool of songs which we always have up our sleeve or switch around, but reading the room is all part of what we do. Experience, are you too loud, are you too quiet, all those nuance of performance which you are more open to the more you play, rather than heads down and looking at your shoes and see you in an hour kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that leads me on to another question I've got written down here that I like to ask everyone because I get this a lot, and it sounds like, mate, you might have kind of already half answered the question already, just naturally. Do you get ridiculous requests? Do you get people coming up to you asking you to play Ed Sheeran and stuff like that ever? Or is that it's so clear what you're doing, it doesn't happen?
Well, that often depends on the evening, on the how much alcohol has been consumed. But to say yeah, I've had funny requests, but I'm 56 years old now, and I wouldn't ask a 56-year-old guy to do Ed Sheeran. I just
No.
wouldn't have the nuts to ask him. But yeah, there's you turn it into banter sometimes. You have
Of
a bit of banter.
course.
I'm sure you know what I'm on about. But yeah, I mean, normally the worst nights for that is New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
That's anything goes. And I've had some of my best gigs and worst gigs on New Year's Eve, where people just want ABBA. They want,
Yeah. It's
that.
funny you say that. I was just about to say I get people ask me for ABBA a lot more than you would expect.
Too many chords, man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've just played like I've just for example a Libertine song. People can't ask me to do ABBA.
That
I'm just
suits me.
thinking, have you been listening to anything I've done like all night?
Oh, there's that. I mean, I think with the acoustic thing, I always say to everyone, or have the mindset that I've kind of got something for everyone somewhere in the locker. It might not be that song, it might not be that artist, but I've got something in the same ballpark at least that will, get me a round of applause or something. It might not be song specific, but as a solo artist, perhaps there's something in your sleeve that up your sleeve that you can handle the situation with. It's like I don't know. Say for example, that you didn't know sitting on the dock of the bay. Just say that you
Sure.
didn't. But I know Stand By Me.
Yeah,
It's in the same world.
of course, of course. Yeah, you can get quite surprising ones as well, which is something like you say a bit of banter with. I had a 4-year-old ask me to play Rocket Man once, bless him, and I actually without sort of looking at the chords on my phone and kind of busking through it, which I didn't really want to do. I didn't know it, so I just put it on the sound system for him at the end, and he was well happy with that. But it's it can be a funny one. I think with me, with sort of getting back into doing it after quite a long break, it took me a bit getting used to because I was kind of thinking like sometimes I'm thinking, oh, are they taking the piss? But they're not. They just don't necessarily um put two and two together from what you've been playing, and on what's coming next. But
Yeah.
that I guess that is all just part of the job and one of the things we have to deal with.
Oh, sure. It's you can turn the situation into a fun thing as well. It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
silly or anything. But as I say, that there's no substitute for experience in a lot of what we do. Whether it's playing with a band and landing on your feet after a mistake, to pacing the set, to reading the room, to banter with someone who's a pain in the neck, or playing a song which is just right for the moment, and there's no right or wrong with that. There's if any of your listeners are into writing and creating original material, then you're not going to have that problem at all.
No, of course not. That's the that's one of the beauties of that. The thing I found, the negative thing about playing original material, is nobody wanted to pay me to play my original material. They wanted to pay me to play other people's stuff, and now here I am.
That's that's it's a shame, isn't it?
It is, but
that we all had. I mean, it was great fun back in the day. Between the ages of maybe 18 and 25, that's all I wanted to do, was be writing songs and performing my songs and writing with the guys and trying to be a rock star and your own terms. And there just comes that moment in your life where you realize you can't afford to take your girlfriend out to the pictures. You haven't got any money. So and that's where people reach that crossroads in life, where it becomes more of a hobby and just a fun thing to do now and again, or you get into the world that you and I have done, with playing all types of gig and education and tuition, and making a living out of something that you're skilled at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still maintain, as far as I'm concerned, I think I've got the best job in the world. I really do. And I wouldn't want to do anything else. I spent years and years trying to do other things and corporate jobs, and it just was never for me. I had a bit of a wake up call last year where I just thought, why am I still doing this? Why am I still doing these 9 to 5 jobs? And no disrespect to people who enjoy that kind of thing and get a buzz out of doing well in the scenarios, but it certainly wasn't for me.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's like sometimes your career chooses you, and music can choose you as much as you choose it. And certainly from my background with family, it wasn't an academic kind of path I was on the ground floor with. It wasn't. My dad lived in his art studio, and my mum was in fashion photo shoots and in the rag trade, dressmaking, and it was all funky stuff. It was all hand to mouth living, and everyone made £100, and you spent 101. That's how it was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely relate to that. Fantastic. So, I mean, lastly, just before we wrap things up, where are things going next? What can we expect? Have you got more festivals coming up? I know you of course you did a live album quite a few years ago. Is that something you'd explore doing, sort of an updated one, another one of those?
Not really, mate. I mean, for people who need reminding, my band's The Big Blue. We're at the bigblue.com. And we need hyphens between the words. The-big-blue.com is our band website. I have all my shows and solo and band work on there, and it's just a consistent, kind of tour that never ends. I'm still invested in performing and playing. Recording wise, not with the band. I've done some studio work and recording and writing work with others. I enjoy contributing and um, helping people realize their goals and dreams, and you know, happy to be a hired gun and help glue things together. You know, I want to explore that some more, maybe. But you know, for me, I want to just do what I do and get better and better at it. You know, to refine it. The biggest buzz for me is to play well and to feel that I've connected somehow to myself, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
To come out of a gig where you really feel that you've expressed yourself is still the basic goal for me. The rest of it is important as well, but that's the essence of it. You know, I don't want to play music I don't like. I don't want to play with musicians I don't have a connection with necessarily. I just want to refine what I do, and to find people who are on board with that, who can see what we're trying to do as a band. As part of, you know, part of the growing family of support that we might have. But yeah, I mean, I think the ship has sailed with regards to recording, you know, another live album. You know, it was something which happened a long time ago now. But you know, there's nothing really in it for other musicians to record my songs, if you like. You know, it's very expensive to record and release something. It's, you know, it's not something I want to discourage people from doing, though. It's I'm on a different scene now where I play the music I like my way, whether it's a cover version. It's more of an interpretation, if you like, of classic blues rock music. And that's really what I want to do. If I'm playing a Jimi Hendrix tune, I don't want to play it exactly like he did. I want to do it my way completely. You know, I want to use classic tunes as a vehicle to express myself rather than be a strict cover of something, you know. So, and that's what a lot of my heroes did. You know, you think of I don't know, All Along the Watchtower. You know, Jimmy completely did that song his own way. You know, that's really inspiring. Things like that. But you know, really no simple answers to that, really, mate. You know, I want to write and record and help others for sure. But with my band and my solo performances, I'm looking to refine what I do. I still practice a lot. I still love practicing. Still trying to chase the sound and the tone that's in my head, and you know, just trying to you know, lock into that untapped thing, get more consistent. Things which I'm working on, I'm sure I'll be working on forever. You know, you never reach the end, do you?
No, absolutely. That's just something I keep telling the young kids that I teach. You know, you don't you don't stop. You know, if you find a point where you ever think, oh yeah, I've learned everything now, I've done everything, you kind of might as well give up at that point. You know, if there's nothing to chase.
I mean, it's we know that's impossible now, but you know, to be you know, content and satisfied with your body of work is all we can hope for, really, on the level that I'm at. I you know, I have a role to play. You know, encouraging young musicians and to even my older students, perhaps something that they've always wanted to do to help them realize their immediate goals and dreams. And that's very rewarding on a very human level, to see people progress with your input, and to see a club full of appreciative people who have just enjoyed what you've played for them with your band.
Yeah.
I want to do it all better, incrementally refining what I do. That's really a complex answer, I know, but it's kind of how I think of things at this stage of my life.
Absolutely, that makes total sense. And I think that's actually a really good and honest and open answer to that. So thank you. So yeah, sure, this has been fantastic, and thank you so much for being here. It's been really great to have somebody on who really gets kind of every aspect of what I'm speaking about, from the teaching to the performing to the canvassing for work, for all of that kind of thing. But really just wanted to take this opportunity to really publicly thank you, because if it wasn't for your input on me as a musician, and all the mentoring, and not just even from the lessons, but in the years since then, if I've been stuck or something, or I had a tricky student I didn't know how to handle with, you were always at the end of the phone, and always been an inspiration. So just wanted to say thank you for everything, because I definitely wouldn't be sat here now with as a full-time musician doing a music-based podcast if it wasn't for you, mate.
Well, this is, I'm very, very grateful, Charlie, as well. And, to call you my friend is the biggest thing of all, right? So,
That's beautiful. Thank you.
that's what it all comes down to. It's happened many, many times with other students. The little Justin with his guitar, or whatever, and one day sharing a pint.
Yeah.
It's and it's friendships for life. That's something that I never really considered, that my students would be dear friends as well. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm kind of full circle. I think you remember at my wedding, I introduced you to Ryan, who I was talking about earlier on, who is, sort of like we had the sort of three generations of yeah, sort of the musical torch being passed down, in a way, which was really cool. But you say about just quickly, because this story I've told so many people this. There was a time where you kindly invited me to come and do a little guest slot, just play three songs, jamming with you in a pub. I think it was the Ringles Cross, I think.
Yeah.
And there was a guy. I'd set up my gear, and I'd sort of gone to the bar, and there's a guy, as we do when we're out and about at gigs, looking at my amp and my pedals and that, just checking it out. And I've gone over to say, I was a guitarist, so obviously he's looking at. We got chatting and figured out after about 5 minutes it was Mr. Cowsbert, my old science teacher, who'd come along to see you play. And we were both stood there with a pint of Guinness, like absolutely gobsmacked when we figured out who the other one was. So yeah, that was that's just another sort of link in there. You never know where it's going to take you. And one of the schools I teach at now, the head teacher used to teach my little brother in year three. And it's just how funny how things come full circle, Um, but
So he took guitar lessons from me, you see.
okay,
So,
yes, so I think I remember him telling me now.
but if I took it as a huge compliment, and I still do, when the teachers of other subjects are happy with the way I teach them. So over the years, I've had many teachers or doctors or whatever on my teaching roster, and it's quite a big compliment if a teacher takes lessons from you consistently. So I took that as a huge compliment.
He was a good teacher as well, I've got to say. So yeah, that is a big compliment, because I'm dyslexic, got ADD. I did struggle at school, and he really helped me get through my science GCSE. He was great. So yeah, that must have been really nice, because you would have had a lot to connected about, and a lot in common, a lot of similarities in your jobs.
one. But as I say, that's all goes hand in hand with what we do. It's a social thing as well. It's connecting with people. It's interacting with people, and as you have found with yourself, it's the person that people invest in as much as the tuition itself. It's like they've got to feel comfortable in your presence and get a good energy from your tutor, and people buy into the person. You could have the best technique and skill sets in the world, but if you're an arsehole, they're not going to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just it. This is the thing. And there's so many people I know who are phenomenal guitarists, but I wouldn't want them anywhere near a school when it comes to teaching because they just haven't got the temperament for it, and there's something to be said for that as well, and saying that there are people I know who are great musicians, but I wouldn't necessarily want to play with them in a band, for different reasons about the way they are with people and getting getting information, getting the point over. It's all there's a lot more to it than just being able to play, isn't there?
Absolutely. So we've got to be an open channel for all that. Just be yourself, and let it happen organically.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
Well, Stuart, this has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I'm really looking forward to seeing you again soon. I'll try and get along to a gig or to an open mic or something like that, if provided I'm not working myself. But yeah, thanks again. This has been great.
Yeah, great stuff, mate, and love you very much. And make sure you bring your guitar when I see you. Okay.
Yeah, will do. And G mate, I'll try not to break a string in the first song this time.
Well, we'll have to have a chat off air about that.
Yeah, you're always telling me I was too heavy-handed for 20 years. You've been telling me it's too heavy-handed when I play, and as if to prove your point, that happened.
That's so nice.
All right, mate. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Cheers.